Welcome back to The Quiet Fight. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Jason. Thanks for tuning in. Today we are talking about burnout, which I think is a very important topic. I know we have both experienced it. I know a lot of friends and coworkers are also experiencing it currently, and we think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing when we, discussed doing this episode and talking about burnout, we just felt it was so important. But it's super important to distinguish burnout from just regular stress.
100%. I feel like a lot of times we justify being burnt out with, I'm just stressed, this will go away.
Yep.
I'll get a good night's sleep. I'm just stressed.
Yep.
So to start it off, let's get into that. And so what is the difference? Stress is kind of categorized as, you're over-engaged into a topic, where burnout is maybe you're disengaged.
Yep.
Stress, hyperactive emotions. Burnout, you're blunted or you have numb emotions. You're not feeling anything.
Yep.
Stress, things feel urgent. I got to get this done. Here we go. Let's do it. Burnout, you just kind of feel empty or hopeless. Stress kind of leads to anxiety. Burnout leads to detachment or depression. Stress, you're still hopeful. Burnout, you kind of lose that hope.
Yep. And I've seen it, like you were saying, in the workplace, friends, family, all that kind of stuff. And when you start going into a state of burnout, I mean, typically it starts with just stress, and maybe you're just not managing it in an appropriate or healthy way, or maybe you're just not managing it at all. Like, you're just kind of brushing it off like it's not a big deal. Everybody goes through it.
You're just stressed.
You're just stressed
It'll
out.
go away.
Yeah, and it doesn't go away, and it turns into this nightmare of a situation that you find yourself in, and it can be months, it can be years, but eventually you're going to get burnt out because you're not dealing with whatever your stress is or stressors, because you're remaining silent.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a big thing for me, going through that process, I know I have in the past 10 years, work became my life.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. And I would do things in my personal life to make sure I'm ready for my work life. Simple things like, hey, I need to get sleep. Why do I need sleep? Well, I need to be prepared for work.
Yep.
And now thinking back on it, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's... Obviously, you need to be prepared for work. But then you lose those relationships in your personal side. Like, why can't I get sleep to make sure I'm prepared to hang out with my kids?
Yep.
Make sure I'm there for my kids. And for me, for a lot of years, work took over my life. And when I had time with my kids, I wasn't there.
Yep.
With them. I was numb. I was detached. I was going through the motions. I was kind of just on autopilot. And I look back now and I'm beating myself up because I missed a lot of personal time with my kids where I wasn't fully engaged, and that kind of pisses me off.
Yeah. And was there, like, from your perspective and experience, was there like a point where you kind of realized that was happening, or it was just, well, this is the norm right now?
Oh yeah, for a lot of years it was the norm. And I just put so much of my effort into work, because I love working, I love my job, and that's just the way it was. So I didn't know any different. I didn't really know how to transition. In hindsight, it's always 2020, but I mean, now I know.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel the exact same way. I think my priorities were just out of whack. Like, people talk about getting an occupation where, you have good work-life balance. And I think we do have that. But I think, the drive and determination, type of personalities that we have, like we're very like, let's get after it. Let's be, let's be in the 1%. Like, let's be the hardest working people out there. And I think because of that maybe attitude, we, in my opinion, maybe we just prioritize work a little bit too high over actually having a life and spending time with family and enjoying those moments. Because I remember, like, for me, like, right, we're always expected to be kind of ready to go at any given notice. So I know I always made sure that I got my stuff done really early in the morning, and then I was just kind of in a limbo mental state for the rest of the day because I was kind of waiting or expecting to go to work. And so I really wasn't like enjoying the moments when I wasn't working. I was always just thinking about work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
because you love the grind. You gotta love the grind.
Love the grind. Love doing like the hard things and the little things and really getting after it. But it was all for like a work related purpose, even when I wasn't working. So it's like you just couldn't really turn it off, right? Mm-hmm. It was always kind of a 24/7 thing. Yeah. And I think because of having that mentality, I think it's a good and a bad thing, right? I think you and I have been very successful, and we've reached a lot of goals in our careers and stuff like that, but at what cost? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at what cost? Because it did lead to burnout, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think lots of people are living that right now, and it's interesting because clinically speaking, men underreport burnout in any career of work, and so those things will show up as like you're numbing out, you don't feel anything, you're impatient or you're irritable. I mean, I can speak to that.
Yep.
Especially with my family and my friends. My wife is very happy that I've put a label on it now, and I'm able to talk about it and realize it, and so now I can catch myself when some of that stuff is creeping in.
Yep.
Loss of meaning or motivation, like for sure. I mean, I know we both can speak to that. There's
Yep.
things that I used to do prior to getting into my career, or even doing it during the beginning of my career, that I no longer do. And up until recently, like basketball has always been a time for me to just go and have fun and play Rec C basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found myself recently unable to get my ass off the couch and go. And so I missed a lot of weeks recently playing basketball, and I just couldn't do it.
Yep.
I had no motivation. And what that obviously led to was, maybe depression and stuff like that. And luckily I kicked myself out of that and got myself back playing basketball.
Yep.
But then you feel guilty. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. Why am I like this?
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating. And until you put a label on it, it's just going to keep eating you away.
Well, I agree, man. Like, I had the exact same thing. I had a list of things, hobbies, likes, before I became a professional. And those things were so passionate to me that, like, I mean, I used to play guitar all the time. I used to teach guitar lessons. I had like 6 guitars piled up. I was collecting them. And, the more and more I got into my career, I just didn't play anymore, to the point where I don't even think I can play anymore. And there's a few times that I tried to pick up the guitar and I just had no interest in doing it. Like, I just kind of lost my interest in in any of my hobbies.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I played, university sports and played football and stuff like that. And I'd have people, reaching out, hey, can you help coach? Do you want to play on our flag rec team? All that kind of stuff. And prior to getting into my career, I was all about it. Like, I was out in the community helping out. I was part of rec teams and stuff like that. And then as the years went by, I just made excuses, and I couldn't find the time to do it, and I was unmotivated. And the excuses I usually made were, my work schedule. I can't make every game, so I can't do it. But at the back of my head, I was feeling tired already.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was feeling like a little bit of burnout, and
you're getting prepared for work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't make it. I might get called in.
Yeah.
Right? So I completely detached myself from all the things that I loved.
Well, do you remember being on the flag team that you never showed up for?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a few years back.
Yeah, I didn't show up. I showed up to like 2 games.
Yeah.
And then I made excuses like, well, I can't commit because of my work schedule. Yeah. Well, that's not true, because we were on the same schedule and you were making most of the games, right?
Yeah.
I was just tired, man. Like, I felt burnout before I even knew that burnout was the term for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think both of us, and I think a lot of coworkers, I think we just turned into workaholics, which helped mask the pain.
Yep.
We just dove into work.
Yep.
Because there's other pressures too, like you got to make money, you got to pay the bills, you got to provide for your family, and so if there's an extra shift or overtime that comes in, people make excuses to make the extra cash to pay for these bills, or if I make more money, I can take my family here, go on a trip, which isn't a bad thing if you're still spending personal time with your family.
Yep.
Which I didn't do, but I just made the excuse. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go pick up the shift. I'm gonna go make some money so we can buy this, this, and this. Things aren't getting cheaper these days, so that added financial pressure kind of forces you into that a little bit without you realizing it. When my priority, and I think a lot of people's priority, should be their family, and lots of people say that, family first, and it should be first. I just kept making excuses and being like, oh, if I go make money, I can help my family this way, when realistically my kids and my wife just want me home and present.
Yep.
When I'm home and present.
Yep.
So
yeah, like burnout is it's quite the thing. And when you start looking at some of the symptoms of it, like, for example, like emotional exhaustion, when we were going through, actual documents and really learning and getting into burnout, some of the things about it, I was like, oh man, I have every single one of these.
Yeah.
And it's funny because even with like emotional exhaustion, for example, I definitely had chronic fatigue. I would say the past 5 years I was not sleeping, and when I was, it wasn't well, to the point where I'm on sleeping medication right now, right? My doctor had to prescribe it to me, right? And I just thought it was, working weird hours, right? Like, flipping back and forth, or, if somebody works a night shift or something like that, I just thought, if your sleep schedule is off, then it's off, and that might just make you tired. But I actually just couldn't get to sleep, and my sleeps weren't sound. Mm. But one of the big things about it as well is like having chronic exhaustion like that, it leads into lots of physical things as well. And when I was reading up on, the literature of it, one of them's high blood pressure, which is wild, because last year I remember going to the doctor. I had to get a surgery or whatever, and went to the doctor, and I'm in like pretty decent shape. However, I was drinking a lot at the time, But he said like I was just at the cusp of like you need high blood pressure medication,
Oh yeah.
right? And I was, I'm 33 years old. I was 33 years old then, and I was working out every day. I still was doing my 5K runs every day with like decent times. My heart was healthy, but I wasn't sleeping, and I was fucking burnt out, and now I have high blood pressure, and I'm 33 years old. Like that
Yeah.
scared the living shit out of me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I have high blood pressure now too. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And that goes into all the like that goes into like what is burnout? So why don't we just list them off? I
Okay.
got a list here.
Yep.
And feel free to chime in whenever you feel like you need to. So mental, emotional signs, irritability, we've already talked about that. I mean, I saw it daily at home,
Yep.
not necessarily at work, because when I was at work, I was just dialed in and working. Short temper, 100%. My wife can confirm. Trouble focusing or making decisions. Again, for me at work, wasn't an issue. I didn't have issues focusing because work was my life at the time. But outside of that, yeah, I had trouble focusing and making decisions.
Yeah, and like I feel the same way. When I was at work, I was 100% dialed in, like 100% dialed in. Like you couldn't take my focus off anything else, and I got the job done, right? But at home, just in shambles,
Yeah.
right? Like exactly what you're saying, man. I couldn't focus on a thing. I couldn't make a decision to save my life. But when I was at work, I could make every decision very quickly, efficiently, and the right one,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, it's just crazy how it carries over.
Yeah. 100%. Sarcasm, coldness, emotional numbness. That's the biggest one for me. I would say, just not feeling anything.
Yep.
And not knowing, yeah. And then I guess searching for some feeling. I think that's a huge one.
Yeah.
You feel numb instead of sad.
Yeah. And I always thought that was an admirable characteristic
Yeah.
because, it didn't take too long for my numbness to kind of show up a little bit in my occupation, right? Like I just became emotionally numb and it made me feel like I was Superman,
Oh, yeah.
right? And I felt I was, the perfect fit for the job because I was like, well, look at all these things that I'm handling and I'm handling them well. Like, I think there's not a lot of people that could handle this situation like I'm doing right now. So I must be like a
Really good.
really good, right? And I thought like that for years, right? And it definitely made me feel like a hero until it started to go into my personal life,
Yeah.
right? Where I didn't feel anything.
Another sign, hopeless thoughts. I can't really speak to that personally. Like I've never felt hopeless.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that too is I have a loving family and two beautiful kids that I think kept me just not going down that path.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you?
Uh, Probably irritability and anger would be the biggest one. And I think, it comes from burnout. It also comes from when we talk about our childhood trauma stuff, right? Like I've never really had a healthy sense of any sort of relationship dynamic that would be normal, right? I remember, getting into arguments with my partner over the littlest things because, over time with burnout, my triggers were getting, smaller and right. Like there are just so many things that began to trigger me. But even if it wasn't a trigger, we'd be having an argument, but it wasn't an argument. It was a conversation. But because I didn't know how to have a healthy conversation, it turned into this massive thing, which it shouldn't have.
Not knowing to have the healthy conversation mixed with burnout, irritability, anger.
Yep.
leads to
Yep.
explosion.
Yep. And but that carried over, like, kind of within the past year or two. It carried over into my job though too, because I found that I was very like cynical, right? Like I was very just grumpy,
Yeah.
right? Like I was just kind of pissed off all the time, and I feel really bad, now that we've sought treatment and we've got help and we're talking now, and I can reflect back on it, and like there's a lot of people that I worked with, that maybe they're younger in their career, and they just have they're full of piss and vinegar, and they're always smiling, and they're so proud, and I remember within the last year or two, it pissed me off seeing a happy look on their face because I was so burnt out and unhappy, right? And I remember being that guy. I remember being so joyful and full of hope, and just so happy. And I couldn't stand being around these people.
Yeah.
I was just fucking mad all the time, and like it's just so unhealthy, man, because the one thing that I unhealthily prioritized was work, but now I'm going to work and I'm unhappy,
Yeah.
right? And it just got worse and worse.
Yeah, and so those kind of were the mental signs. So behavioral, I mean, I'm pretty sure I can check all these boxes. Withdrawal or isolation, 100%. Even at work, I mean, I can speak to my personal life, 100%. My wife can confirm. But even at work too, like you isolate yourself with a certain group of people,
Yep.
and you're just in that all the time, which I don't think is healthy. I think in a work environment, I think there's a responsibility for everybody to, get along and just build healthy relationships, not speak ill about each other and stuff like that. And I think with burnout, there tends to be, that isolation portion, or you get those clicks, and then those clicks start to talk about each other negatively and stuff like that, and it's just not healthy.
Yep.
And I'm like, why? What's the point? What's the reasoning? Like, I don't care what so and so is doing. Like, if that's the way they want to do it, then go ahead.
Yep.
I mean, it shouldn't affect me.
Yep.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And so yeah, for sure, withdrawal isolation.
Oh, for sure. And it's just, what you just said, it just adds to more burnout.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know for myself, like when I was, young in my career, I was all about, the shop talk and, talking about work all the time and all that kind of stuff, because I was new and I didn't know any different. Right? But as I, got more experience and saw more things, I realized that most of these conversations that, coworkers and stuff, people, it was very negative. Like almost none of it was like, positive. And even when it was, after a few years, I was so burnt out. I just did not want to talk shop talk. Like it drove me crazy. Like you sit down with your coworkers and that's all they want to talk about is work, and I couldn't do it anymore, and the isolation part of it, because I couldn't deal, right, and I wasn't feeling myself, I started to isolate myself. Like I really just didn't want to be around like-minded people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Another sign for behavioral decline in performance. I mean, for me, in terms of work, I never saw that. I was always motivated at work.
Yep.
But I mean, even taking that decline in performance into my personal life, yeah, for sure. I wasn't the best husband I could be. I wasn't the best father I could be. So there definitely was a decline in that aspect.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate.
Yep.
My wife has to do more. I know we touched on your sort of decline in performance at work and stuff. So moving on to the next, missed deadlines or procrastination. I mean, yes and no. Did I procrastinate some things? yes, but it always got done eventually.
Yep.
Um, Substance use. For me, I was thinking about this today actually, and for me, because my life revolved around work, whenever I had time off, um, I would look for an excuse to go out with my friends. Oh, you know what? I worked hard this week, or I've been working hard the last month. I just need a night to myself or a night with my boys,
Yep.
and seek that validation, which turned into heavy drinking, which turned into hangovers, which turned into missed time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, yeah. So definitely not healthy. And again, I keep touching on this. It affected my personal life and my relationship with my family, which I definitely just regret.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, man. Like, my cause of burnout, it kind of just set me back to a point where I just couldn't grow up emotionally, I would say. Like, when I was always in a bad spot, the good times that I could remember always had something to do with hanging out with friends, but mainly hanging out with friends and alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it got to the point where all I wanted to do was go out and hang out with friends. But I knew that drinking would be involved. Drinking made me feel good.
Yeah.
Drinking masked any sort of burnout. Right? And then it just progressed to just drinking, right? So if Jason can't hang out with me, well, then I'm going to ask the next person and the next person and the next person, right? So I just needed to get that those good feelings, right? That dopamine, because I was so burnt out, I couldn't feel anything because I was numb.
Mm-hmm.
All that kind of stuff. And yeah, it affected everything in my life. It affected my relationships with my parents, my brother, extended family. I was isolated. I didn't reach out. Nobody knew what was going on. I've been in several, romantic relationships throughout, my career the past 10 years, and all of them have been disastrous. And, it's my fault. And because I didn't deal with my burnout, I was emotionally numb, and I had a crutch, and my crutch was alcohol.
Mixed in with that childhood trauma.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm so blessed to have kids and a family right now, because I think if I didn't have that the last 5 years, my oldest is 5, I think I definitely could have went down that path. I don't think my wife will let me, because she, as you know, she's very opinionated and scary sometimes. But whenever I had the opportunity to go out and drink,
yeah,
I made sure I did it.
Yeah.
But my family kind of kept that in check, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, recently, realizing all this is definitely going to limit the times that happens, for sure. So
yeah, and just to touch on that, and I just had a thought, was like, because the burnout and for myself, and the drinking was so bad, it's kind of sad though too, right? I said that I've never had really any good relationships, and it's my fault. There's no excuses for that. But even in my current relationship, I met my partner while I was drinking heavily, and in a state of burnout, and I made it very clear to her in the beginning of our relationship that I like to go out with my friends, I like to drink, I like to party, I also like to work hard, right? I'm going to be there for you, but don't get in the way of the things that make me feel good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In different words, but that's essentially what I said to her. So I already like doomed my relationship, right? Kind of thing. Thank God she's still with me, and we have a lot of things to work out. But in hindsight, like, that's how I was, and that's super scary. I didn't have anybody to keep me in check other than like right? You would keep me in check, but there's only so much that you can do, right? You have a family, right? You're not with me 24/7,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I didn't really have anything to keep me in check, and but thank God, thank God now.
Hey, here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, so a couple other behavioral, and we've already touched on these: neglecting responsibility, disconnect from kids and partner. I've already talked about that. You already talked about that. I think everybody could probably talk about that
Yep.
a little more. So physical signs, insomnia or disrupted sleep. Like I said earlier, I always prioritized sleep for work purposes. But even then, like, I would only get 5-6 hours sleep.
Yep.
Probably broken. My watch tells me that my sleep score is shit. So yeah, definitely relevant for me.
Yep.
Chronic headaches, muscle soreness, back pain, intestinal issues.
I had I had severe back pain multiple times,
Yeah.
right? And we couldn't figure it out. Like, it would just come and go. Healthy dude, like, there's no reason for it. But stomach issues, 100%. I had huge stomach issues. Like, I had to get it checked out. Like, I had some like internal bleeding stuff going on, and right. Yeah, like, pretty serious.
I think it's more common than we know, right? People don't want to talk about that type of thing, right? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's gross.
And
Ew.
well, yeah, it's very personal.
Yeah.
But I think it's more common than we're aware of. I can think of a few people off the top of my head that have confided in me about some of that stuff, and
Yep.
that's stress, or maybe it's burnout, stress leading into burnout, that type of thing.
Yep. And I think it's still early in our process and all that kind of stuff. So it still needs to be seen what the future holds for myself for stuff like that. However, since I've been going to a therapist and I've stopped drinking, I haven't had any back pain. All my stomach issues went away.
Isn't it crazy?
So you
That's
know
crazy.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Big one for physical, constant fatigue.
Yep.
You can't get enough sleep to feel rested.
Yep.
I think that's big. I think a lot of people listening to this are going to relate to that, and I hope if you're listening, you start to label some of these things and consider something to maybe help. Decreased libido is another physical sign. Weakened immune system, you're getting sick lots. I don't know for me if it's hard to tell, it's hard to know, right? But I know back in my younger, I hardly got sick.
Yeah.
But now I have kids, so maybe the kids are bringing sicknesses home. So I don't know. It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah. I didn't really think about it too much, but there might be a correlation for me for that. Like, I don't remember really ever getting sick, and even early into my career, I never got sick.
Yeah.
But the past 2.5 years, I've gotten severely sick, where I had to miss, multiple days. I was bedridden probably 3 or 4 times, and that's never happened to me.
Oh yeah.
So I'm definitely thinking that maybe for me. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots of things to consider. Lots of there's so many things that I think you need to monitor, and I think it's good to talk about it, because a lot of these things I wasn't super aware of. I know they talk about burnout and
Yep.
You feeling tired, and maybe it was the who was delivering the message to me, and nothing really clicked. But now, being able to do it myself, talking to a therapist, has helped me, label these things and identify them, and then find a way to mitigate
Yep.
it. And so if you're listening, I urge you to, if some of these things are kind of checking, reach out, or maybe you got to see a therapist, or I don't know I think everybody deals with these things differently, and there's
Yep.
not, one way fixes all.
Yep.
The way you deal with things are going to be differently than the way I deal with things. But that's the first step, is to be aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then start building a path.
Yep.
Yeah. So why do you think burnout goes unspoken with men?
I think there's just always that drive to, keep pushing yourself, be the hardest worker in the room. You know, that alpha mentality, that's, if you want to call it toxic masculinity, like you can, I get that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I understand where that term comes from, because I think it can become, toxic, because burnout is toxic, man. Like, it's essentially making you sick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I think, starting from the start and talking about what is stress, what is burnout, I think probably lack of information.
Lack of info.
Like,
I think, society or our culture rewards, grit and silence. Silent strength is silence.
yeah,
And I
rub
think
some dirt on it, man.
Yeah.
You know what I
you'll
mean?
be fine. Grind through it. You
Yep.
got to get through the grind. And it works for a lot of people. But one thing I'll say, like, some people will have burnout their whole lives and be fine.
Yep.
But that's the F word, right? And, like, are they actually enjoying life and not just going through the motions? And I think that's a big, like, I probably could have just went through life and be fine, and I probably would have kept my marriage together. I would have, been a good dad for the most part, but yeah, I wouldn't have really, like, thrown myself into these situations with my kids and, like, immersed myself and appreciated the opportunities I have with my family and my friends. So yeah, I think that's something to consider, because I can see in my head a bunch of people that are maybe a little bit older in life, and they're just fine, and they've been fine
For years.
but did you enjoy it? Like, were you immersed in it? You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's not a way to live, man. Like, that's just,
It can be.
it can be, but
People get through it.
and some people are fine with just being fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just know, for me, I don't want to just be fine, and I think that's another, could be a part of the problem too. Maybe. I think that's kind of the way we were raised, right? We don't want just normalcy. We just,
Yeah.
right? We're trying to hit the
Yeah.
peak all the time.
Yeah.
And so you kind of gotta, I think for me, I definitely have to pull the pedal back and just, it's okay to be on idle for a bit. Like, it's
Mhm.
okay. You don't have to burn
Enjoy the
yourself
mo-
out.
enjoy the
the
moment.
moment. Be present.
Yeah. Be present. Not be thinking about tomorrow or what am I doing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just be present.
No different than we talked about, the trauma stuff, right? Like, you could be dealing with it forever, or, right, just like Chris was saying, it could be that stuff behind you, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's always going to be there, but it's in the past. So I think that's a big thing, is just being present, actually enjoying your time and what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And another, I think, reason why a lot of this goes unspoken, especially for men, is we work a lot of blue collar jobs, right?
Statistically, yep.
A lot of construction workers.
Yep.
And you look at those fields, they don't necessarily have the mental health resources in place.
No, they don't.
They don't maybe have, like, HR departments, and they don't necessarily have, like, paid recovery time.
Yep.
You have to show up to get paid, and that adds a whole bunch of financial pressure to people, right? Like, if I don't show up today, like, if you wake up in the morning and you're in the dumps, but there's that pressure. I got to go to work because I got to feed my family. I got to pay the mortgage. I got to buy groceries. I got to do this. I got to do this. Okay, I'll just grind it out.
Yep.
And they're doing that for years, man, years.
Yep.
And it's weighing on them.
Oh, for sure.
And the stats show it. Like, I mean, I pulled up a stat this morning that suicide rates in construction jobs are 35% higher than the average. Like, that's a big deal. And
I didn't know they were that high.
yeah, and so part of this is what we're doing. Like, I hope that people listening, like, this goes for every guy out there, right? And I urge you to maybe start thinking about it, or maybe start labeling it, and then coming up with some sort of plan.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pop off a question. So we're talking about you drop off that stat.
Yeah.
So was there, any point, during your severe burnout that suicide ever crossed your mind? I know that's a heavy question, man. You don't have to answer it either.
No, I got an answer for that. And I've had a lot of people confide in me and have those feelings and those thoughts. So I'd be lying if I say it didn't cross my mind, because those conversations were happening. But for me, and I think I've touched on this on every podcast so far, is I'm blessed to have a loving wife and two very beautiful children that I could not imagine not being here with them. So yeah, it's been part of the conversation, but I've never once considered it, because I have that, and I'm blessed to have that, and some people don't. So yeah, I'm definitely blessed. How about you?
My answer is a yes, no. So, like, I do remember when I was younger dealing with my family stuff. I remember, like, just even the thought of killing myself, like, what, and, like, fuck, no one knows this. I don't tell anybody this shit, right? So I thought about suicide. I just, like, thought about, could I actually do it? Right? And I didn't have many capabilities in the house to do it, so the only way I would have been able to would be slit my wrists. And I thought about it. I actually took a knife one time just to see how bad it would hurt, and
oh man,
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But when I going through my career and stuff, and I've seen lots of people kill themselves, lots of people that I'm close with, family, friends, coworkers, all that kind of stuff. When I was, within the last year here before I got sober, I didn't necessarily think about, killing myself. But I definitely thought about how am I going to word this? How do I word this? I think I even told my partner this. I said something like, I'm not going to kill myself, but I definitely understand why people do. And that's how I feel.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't have it in me to do that, but I can definitely understand why somebody would. And I think that's just as heavy.
Yeah.
That also being said, I do think I would have died eventually if I didn't get help, because of how bad the drinking and everything was going. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know how, but I think that would have been a catalyst for it for sure. So.
Yeah, like alcoholism is rough, and it took my dad. So like I get it. Yeah, but again, here we are.
Well, it's good to talk about it, right? Like I've never said anything like that in my entire life.
Yeah, we've never had that conversation.
We've never had that conversation. So like, I haven't told my parents that, right? Like nobody. So, but
that's real.
But I can't be silent, man. And the people listening to this or watching or whatever, just confide in somebody.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. So, we've talked about burnout. We've talked about the signs, symptoms. What does the recovery path look like? Like everybody's going to be different. So, I think reading up on this, obviously we had to read up on it and try and find ways.
Yep.
We can definitely give, what we're doing. But I think the first step that we've come across, that I've come across, awareness is the first one. Labeling it, recognize the signs, give it a name. That what's happening.
Yep.
And then it also talks about having self-compassion. Burnout is not a failure. It's feedback. It's your body telling you you're overloaded.
Yeah, like, settle down.
Yeah, you got to settle down. So I think that's always the first step. And then second step, they talk about boundaries and control. So they say, okay, reduce all the non-essential demands. Well, what does that really mean? That's a lot of, yeah. What does that mean to you?
Well, you can, non-essential demands.
Yeah. Reduce them.
I think, to me, that sounds like a needs versus wants thing, right? Like, if you look at finances, right? 50% on, your mortgage and your groceries and blah, blah, blah. And then 20% on that fancy car kind of thing. So
Yeah.
To me, that's kind of how that is. Like, so the things that are really important in your life that you need to do, you need to prioritize it, right? So I would say, everyone's in a different situation. People need to work for money, but you also need to prioritize your family. So
Family first.
Family first. So, right. I'm still learning that,
Yeah.
right? I don't have kids. I'm not married.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still working out my priorities, but yeah, so family first. So if you're putting your family first, then
maybe you don't take the call-out shift.
maybe you don't take that,
Overtime shift.
that extra OT.
Yeah.
Maybe it's okay if you don't make that couple $100.
Yeah.
Unless that money is like actually going to help your family, right?
For sure.
But if you don't really need it, do you need to do it?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Is prioritizing that. Like, I think if we're all living within our means, we don't need to pick up overtime shifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
just extra money that we can spend on whatever. I think if we're talking about if priority for a lot of people, and lots of people say this, family first, then I think then you should be making family first and be present and make time with your family and not
Waiting for that OT call.
do extra and wait for the call.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So say no where possible. Yeah. And then I guess step 3, they talk about, restorative activities. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. For me, it's sports. Sports has always been an activity I can go to and I just have fun. I don't care if we win. I don't care if we lose. I'm there for exercise and I'm there to just hang out with the boys, shoot some hoops or
Yep.
play football or whatever. I think that's very important for me anyways. And then for other people, make sure you don't lose your hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very important.
Yep.
So whatever that is for you, whether you're an outdoorsman and you like going camping, going
Fishing,
hunting, going
yeah.
fishing, whether you're an artist, you like painting, you like, doing that type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, good news. I joined a flag football team.
Yeah. I
Like
know.
we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I've been
And
getting
how's it going?
good. I've been getting back into the hobbies that I lost.
Yeah.
Right. All of them. And I'm not burning myself out by doing it. I'm doing it bit by bit and what I can actually manage, right, and handle and what's like realistic.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going really good. just happy. Just
Mm-hmm.
happy to be out. I don't care if we win or lose. Just nice to be feeling normal again.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then the last one that I found is connections. They talk about isolation leads to more cardiovascular disease and all these different things. And so they say making sure you're building, and not only building, but also maintaining the connections that you have. Um, Share the burden with people you trust and that are safe.
Yep.
And then also reaching out to professional support. I mean, for me, I think I said this in the first podcast. For me, that professional support isn't going to fix it all. Like, I would say, in my hierarchy of what has helped me, it's probably in like the middle to like lower half of it. And maybe I'm not giving it as much credit as I should. But it definitely started me on the path. And which I think is important.
Yep.
It's definitely given me a place to start feeling my feelings and labeling my feelings. So yeah, it's definitely a step that has helped me, but it for me, it's not to be like fix all.
Yep.
So if you're, everyone's different, because some people it is.
Like for me, I love going to therapy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
we're just different, right?
Yeah, we're just different. And I've heard it all the time, therapy doesn't help me. Lots of my friends and family have said that therapy doesn't help. That's not something that's going to fix me. And I think if you go in with that attitude all the time, oh, this is going to fix me, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure a little bit. But I think if you frame it as this is something that could lead to fixing me, or this is a first step to fixing me, then I think you're a little more open-minded.
Yep. You're just taking a chance.
Yep.
Right? There's so many resources out there.
Yeah, and these resources have proven to help, right?
Yep.
So why not try it?
Yep. There's no shame in it.
No, there's no shame. So besides therapy, they talk about like peer groups, like this.
Yep.
Right? Like being able to talk into a microphone has definitely helped me.
Yep.
Feel the feelings I'm feeling and find words for those feelings. And then also, and then it just helps build connections outside too.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
I just completely agree with everything, man. Like right. We've been through it and we've experienced it and we've reached out and we've made better connections with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 100%. All those things work, man.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to touch on there, Dylan? I got a couple questions, so I always have questions.
Rock me with a question.
Rock you with a question. Okay, the first one I have, and this goes out to all the listeners too. Are you surviving or are you living?
Well, yesterday I had a therapy appointment, and the conclusion of that appointment was essentially me saying, you know what, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but sometimes it is. And right now it is.
Yeah.
Like I'm present, right? Like I'm handling my shit. I'm taking care of it. I'm, taking care and making better connections, and everything in my life right now just feels like it's on the right path, right track.
Yeah.
And I'm just here. I'm present. I'm not thinking about the future or the past. I'm really just creating memories, and I'm really cherishing it.
So you're living.
I'm living.
Good.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, and you don't have kids, I have kids, and those who have kids will understand that time spent with them is beautiful, and I'm definitely cherishing that now. Yeah. Yeah. Another question for you.
Okay.
Who checks in on the guy who always shows up?
Is this a loaded question?
It can be.
Honestly, dude, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's people in my life, very few, but there have been people, and I have been vocal about it, for the ones who checked in when, the cards were down.
Yeah.
They were there. They know who they are.
Yeah.
Right? And if you weren't there, you know who you are too.
Yeah.
So there's people out there, but it's few and far between, but I am so grateful for the people that did check in.
100%. This is something that I've thought about quite a bit recently, and I'm kind of kicking myself because there are definitely times where I could have checked in with people.
Oh, dude, I 100% agree. I feel terrible.
Yeah.
I know people that were in situations not doing well, and I didn't say a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad about it.
Yeah. So I didn't really understand it then, but I understand it now. And my interpretation of all this is mental health is such a tricky thing. Everyone deals with it differently. Anytime there's like a crisis point or stuff like that, you're getting an outpouring of support right away.
Yep.
Like immediately after.
Yep.
And that definitely doesn't go unnoticed, but part of the journey, like it's not a one and done thing, and those people who have consistently checked in, whether it be weekly, bi-weekly, hell, even monthly,
Yep.
just with a simple text or a phone call or
Yep.
whatever, that means a lot.
Makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. And I'm going to give a shout out, and I hope he doesn't mind. There's one guy, I'll use BA for an example, and it's amazing what that guy is able to do, because
So kind, man.
so kind, and he, I'll go months without seeing or talking to him. Like, I consider him a friend now, but because we're in different stages of our lives. It's not like we go for beers on weekends and stuff like that.
Yep.
But he takes the time, and he just kind of gets it, and he just checks in consistently, and
He's genuine.
yeah, and it's very genuine. And like, if I hope that I can take away, if I can take anything away from this, it's kind of be more like that. And even with people that I'm not super close with, a simple text is all it needs.
Oh man, it's the golden rule. Like,
Yeah.
legitimately, just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in the past.
Yep.
I'm trying to right my wrongs,
Mm-hmm.
but those people that can check in on you when you're not having a bad time, oh man, it's like,
means a lot.
it's like your guardian angel.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the ones who just show up on your doorstep when you're in the dumps means a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to think checking in on people was a burden.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I don't want to bother them.
Yeah. Don't want to
They have tons of people checking in.
Yeah. Do they?
Do they? I didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, be their guardian angel, man.
Yeah.
Check in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
These are good questions.
Well, you got to come prepared. I'm always the quietest person in the room.
Man, you have been the soul of this episode. Like, you have been just talking and talking. This is amazing. This is a good therapy session between you and me.
It's something.
You know?
Okay. All right. Well, so the last couple things I have, just quick check-in prompts for men, like, just for yourself even. Like, when's the last time you felt rested and not just not tired?
Yep.
Am I living or am I just enduring? Big difference there. Do I feel like I'm always behind even when I work nonstop? And then, do I still feel like myself?
Was there a point where you realized that you didn't feel like yourself?
No, I think, I always tried to keep my hobbies and stuff through work. And I think the biggest change is being a father. And I didn't know how to transition from just being a husband to now being a father and a husband. And so those priorities were fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I ever lost myself totally. I just didn't know how to prioritize properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Mine was more because of the physical change in myself. Like, my head was just always running 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I couldn't really sort anything out. But like, that burnout happens gradually, right? So I didn't really realize how fucked up my head was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the physical aspect I noticed, because in 2024 I gained 30 pounds in like fucking 8 months.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't change my diet. I was still working out just as hard, but I was gaining weight and I felt like shit all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Well, it was because I was excessively drinking, extra calories, right? My body can't recover, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But my turning point was, like, I was driving my vehicle and I was just like, am I an alcoholic? And I was like having this mental dialogue in my head while I'm driving to the gym, like, fuck, do I have a drinking problem? No, there's no way. So that was the only point where I was like, I think I might have a problem.
Yeah.
But of course, a couple more months, you don't really realize it, right?
Yeah.
But for me, that was it.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I thought this was good. Again, people who want to reach out, please do. Message us if you have our phone numbers. Text us. We have the email set up, and we can provide contact information if you want. But we want to hear from you. We want to get some more guests on the show, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I know for me, just talking into a mic has been...
it's nerve-wracking. You start sweating before you...
Oh yeah, before the episodes, you're sweating. But once you get into it, it's helped me a ton.
Yep.
And it's helped me open up and help me label some of these things. I know it's not for everybody, but if you think it might help, reach out. Everyone's different. We know that. But yeah, reach out on Instagram. Please like, share. If you can comment, even if it's just like a thumbs up or whatever.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please and thank you. I think more people, I think lots of people can relate, and yeah, we're here to talk and help. And
yeah, that's a nice shirt that you're wearing. That's quite the logo you have there.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, we'll have some merch eventually, so stay tuned.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.